Fashion is not just a way of keeping us warm and not naked. It's a pastime, a hobby, and a way of life. Despite this, most of us know almost nothing about where our clothes come from, how they're made, and who they're made by. Without dressing in beige hemp sacks, is there a way we can shop ethically and still look great? We contacted Birdsong, an ethical fashion startup, to see if it's possible.
We were in contact with quite a few kind of groups of migrant ladies in London who were making things, often with the intention of selling, but in reality they were quite often not reaching their potential in that area or losing money on that sort of thing. So we could see that there would be a real market for it if it was kind of in the right places and with the right design.
You pay all your workers the living wage in London here, don't you? Does that have a knock-on effect therefore to your price?
Yeah, so we pay London living wage per hour per pieces, and we kind of co-design in order that it's still an affordable, accessible but beautifully made garment. But we do take into account, you know, whether we want to make something like our jumpers, for example, they're upwards of £200 because they're hand knitted and it takes that kind of long to make them, or stuff like scrunchies and socks, which are reasonably quick, so that we've got something for every kind of price point.
Something that kind of drew me to your brand and that I really loved was the fact that you don't Photoshop any of your models. So is that something you've always done?
You kind of see one image of how women are supposed to look, and then you see how women actually look, and you think that women kind of look wrong in some way because they're not how they're supposed to look. Whereas if you see a range of images of people looking a different ways, that kind of puts it all into context.
These are a lot of activists, a lot of our friends. There's people approached me at different events and said, I don't feel represented in the media, I've not had my picture taken in 10 years, I feel really shy. It really helps to believe in someone who's not really seen themselves as aspirational or worthy of being portrayed before, and to give them that step up and be like, no, what you're doing is really cool, you've got a really important story to tell and you look amazing in our clothes.
Our tagline's always been no sweatshops, no Photoshop, and it was quite new and quite I don't know, people had never heard of it before, but now 3 years later in such a short time, everyone is having street cast models. It's not saying that we inspired everything, but it's just an amazing progression. So yeah, it's really fantastic.
So if we talk through kind of how we start literally at the design point, so drawing something out to an actual item that I can purchase online or in the store or whatever.
Great. Constantly I'm just collecting imagery on my phone, taking pictures, screenshots from Instagram, blogs, websites. So I'll start the collection just making probably 1 million mood boards, and we'll narrow down to certain concepts that we like and we think will be sellable and we think they're exciting. Then I start hand sketching lots of things, and we send the patterns once they're done and the fabric once that's approved to the factories, which are the charities and women's organisations around London.
So what happens now that we've brought it here?
So we've brought the fabric and we've brought the patterns and we've brought specs, and basically I just present to the ladies and hand over all the information that they need to understand the product, to understand what they're going to have to make.
And how long do they have to make those? Is that the samples?
So these are samples and they're quite pinched for time, so I'm going to come and help them next week, but they've got about just under 2 weeks to make samples of about 8 garments.
And then what happens with those samples?
And then once those samples are approved, we can go into bulk production.
Awesome. And then where is this fabric from?
So this fabric we've got 2 fabrics, but they're both khadi, which is basically fabric that's hand spun and hand woven in India by women's cooperatives, and it's just a really great, socially fabulous fabric. The fabric is naturally quite textural, quite natural, so we've really tried to pick a print that would make it look more modern and wearable.
Fashion is the second biggest emitter of CO2 after agriculture.
The fashion industry, I don't know, it can be so destructive, it's very a throwaway.
Majority of fashion labour workers are women, and if you're supporting fast fashion, you're not supporting women.
Is it important to know where your clothes come from?
No, I think that is massively important.
I think it matters more and more to people nowadays, and that's a good thing. I think brands like this will really bring it to the fore as well.
I think there's been a lot of media and press around the negative things about fashion that goes on with people manufacturing garments that we pay, £2 for, but they get paid a penny for.
Ethical fashion is important. It's not just like a sort of hippie brand type thing. It's actually just people wanting to know who and where their money is going.
You've obviously come down here today. Do you like what they do?
Yeah, I'm just checking out their stuff and I really like it.
Birdsong are really exciting because it brings it a little bit more local.
The pieces are all things that you can incorporate into your everyday outfit. Birdsong, like, turn it on the head, they make it super fun. Everything they make is beautiful and they share the story of the makers.
I just love how expressive it is. It's just really fun stuff that they make, isn't it?
I saw how Birdsong make their clothes, who makes them, and why they chose to go down the ethical route. I loved their ethos of no Photoshop and no sweatshops. And seeing the clothes being made, I saw how it was a real collaboration between the designers and the creators. Their prices might be higher than the big clothing chains, but when ethics look this good, it's a worthwhile price to pay.